Hello beautiful people, my name is Vendi and today I'm bringing you the final Tagapalooza of 2019. If you're new to this channel, you may not know that I am the worst at doing tags as soon as somebody tags me. So a thing that I've been doing throughout this past year is mashing up a bunch of tags together and doing them at once while I do other various tasks around the house. It's just sort of a way for me to get down some of the tags that people have been tagging me to do because I really do appreciate it when they do tag me. I'm just bad at doing them in a timely manner. The tags I am going to be bringing you guys today are sort of holiday / end of the year themed. So without further ado, I've got some clothes to fold, some books to show you, some cookies to bake, and I think that it's best if we just get started and get it all rolling. The first tag that I'm going to be doing is the Recommending Books to Booktubers tag. This was created by Olivia from the channel Olivia's Catastrophe, and she was kind enough to tag me to do it as well. I chose to do this tag because I think that the holidays are a wonderful time to celebrate those nearest and dearest to you, and what could be more near and dear to me than books and the booktube friends that I've made over the past year or so that I've been doing this. The first booktuber who I'm going to recommend something to is my friend Lou from the channel Lou and Life. Lou is a thoughtful person and she's so analytic about the books that she reads. She also has a brilliant imagination and a heart full of magic. And Lou also really likes her romance. For those reasons for Lou, I'm going to recommend the Winner's Trilogy, but specifically the Winner's Crime by Marie Rutkowski. Kestrel, the protagonist of this series, has a really good head on her shoulders. She's smart, she thinks about things before doing them and doesn't just rush in and make a mess of things. And I think Lou will relate to that and appreciate it greatly. In addition, the romance is a little slow burn, a little bit angsty, and I think that Lou will like the way that all of those elements come together in this book. The next booktuber that I want to mention is Katie from the channel A Sea of Tones. Katie is a fantasy and historical fiction queen. She likes a magic system that makes sense and that feels authentic and unique to the world that the author is creating. Katie's also a fan of characters who rip your heart out in the sense that they tug at your heartstrings and make you care about them greatly, and then bad stuff happens to them. Katie is, I think, also more of a mature reader. She doesn't like books that use melodrama as a clutch. Nope, a crutch to move the story forward. And she also loves a slow burn romance that's going to melt your heart. And for all of these reasons, I have to recommend Sabriel by Garth Nix to Katie. It has everything. It has parallel universes, it has necromancy, it's got a slow burn romance, it's got that fantasy feel where it could be modern day or it could be like 100 years in the past and you wouldn't know. It's fantastic and I think Katie would really enjoy it. Next, I want to make mention of Hannah from the channel Snow White Reader. There are not enough positive adjectives in the English language to talk about Hannah in an accurate way. She is kind, she's smart as a whip, and she's super funny. I mean, I feel like everyone who's checked out her channel knows that she is like a comedy queen. Love her so much. She also recently did a video analyzing some psychological shenanigans that happen in the movie Mean Girls and the book that it was based on, Queen Bees and Wannabes. So since she loves a contemporary with a feminist bent that is chock full of humor, for Hannah, I definitely have to recommend The Exact Opposite of Okay by Laura Stephen. The next booktuber I want to shout out is Jasmine from L'Amour de Books. I'm so sorry about my friend, but as bad as my French is, Jasmine is equally and even more good. Positivity is truly Jasmine's middle name. She's just the absolute sweetest person. Every single time I see a video of hers pop up in my subscription feed, I just am overwhelmingly filled with joy. She just is such a positive, happy person, and it's infectious. Like, you can't not be happy when you're watching one of her videos. When I think of Jasmine, I think of the Shatter Me series, which is to say that I think of a found family, I think of just a touch of magic, and most importantly, I think of an absolutely beautiful writing style. And for all of those reasons, for Jasmine, I have to recommend Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. It's such a whimsical, lovely, positive, happy-making book that I think that she will really like it if she ever chooses to pick it up. And the last booktuber that I want to shout out for the purposes of this tag is Noria from the channel Noria Reads. I've become really close friends with Noria in the past year, and our reading taste, it's like we have a mind meld that stretches from Boston to Lagos. She is such a mature reader. She loves her fantasy. She loves things that are a little gritty and dark, but she ultimately loves when the main crew, the protagonists that you've been cheering for, triumph in the end. Because she and I share such similar reading tastes with regard to our fantasy, I have to recommend to her my favorite current fantasy series, and that is the Truth Witch series by Susan Dennard, particularly the later books in the series, but gotta start with the first, and it is such an amazing book to start with, and she's such an amazing person, so I really hope that she checks it out. And that is it for the recommending books to Booktubers tag. I will have all of these channels linked in the description box below, so if you like any of these books, you can check out people who I personally think would like them very much, so you might like their taste in books as well. And even if you've never read any of the books that I mentioned here, I strongly suggest that you check out these channels. They are such wonderful people, and their voices deserve to be bigger and better and heard all around the world, so check them out, please, please, please. Shifting gears a little bit, we are now going to be doing the Booktube Giving Tag. I was also tagged to do this by Olivia from the channel Olivia's Catastrophe, and I'll have her and the creator of the tag linked in the description box below. Each of the questions in this tag have the word give or the concept of giving somewhere within them, and they go as follows. Question number 1 is, what book would you give to everybody if you could? And the answer to that should be very, very simple. Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. It is a beautiful, beautiful fantasy story. It's got all of my favorite tropes, and if you're a lover of fantasy, or if you're a lover of fine families, if you're a lover of slow burn romance, if you're a lover of like Avatar: The Last Airbender and elemental magic, you'll find something that you love in here. It's chock full of everything good about fantasy as a genre, in my personal opinion, so I would like to share it with the world and spread a love of fantasy wherever I go. Question number 2, what book could you not give a rat's rear end about? And I don't think I have an answer for this question. I try not to spread negativity on this channel, and I try not to focus on books that I don't care about, so I don't actually know. Question number 3 is, what book do you hope somebody buys and gives to you? And for this, I don't, again, have an answer. Whatever somebody gets for me is gonna move me in a tremendous way. Like the idea of somebody thinking of me enough to pick up something and then give it to me, gift it to me is just incredible to me. And I don't know, I smile even thinking of it, but I don't have any specific wishes, I don't think. I mean, I have my like wish list for books, but any book that somebody gives me that reminds me of, that reminds them of me is gonna mean a lot to me. The following question is, what is a book or series that you've given up on? And for this, unfortunately, I have to say the Stalking Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I know that the last book in the quartet, I believe, came out, it either came out earlier this year or it's going to come out early next year. I'm not quite sure, but I know that I read the first book and I wasn't a fan. It didn't strike my fancy, and I don't think I'll be continuing with the series, which is truly unfortunate because I thought that it would be a series that I would really enjoy when I first picked it up, but I guess you can't win them all. Next question is a character that you wish that the author had given more time to. Despite loving the book so tremendously, I have to say Tane, and honestly everyone in the East, in The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. The purpose of this book was to sort of demonstrate that a balance between the Eastern world and the Western one, as Samantha Shannon creates them in here, is necessary for the saving of the world. But I feel like despite the importance of the players in the East, we didn't spend as much time with them, both in a physical, external sense, but especially, and that's the bit that I kind of grieve for, internally. We didn't get as much of their thoughts, feelings, motivations, and I think that that was like a pretty big oversight. So despite absolutely loving this book, I do wish we'd gotten a little bit more of Tane. In fact, I think that this book maybe could have been served better into being split into a duology, each of like 500, 600 pages, so that we could get like an equal balance of the two, just because I think the aesthetics of a book about two halves coming together would fit really well if the book itself were in two halves. Question number 6, the next question is like the previous question, but kind of reverse. So it's, what characters do you wish the author spent less time with? And for that, I have to say the non-main characters in ACOWAR. What I feel, and what many people feel, happened with this series, and this book in particular, was that rather than giving a satisfying conclusion to the story of our protagonist, her love interest, and then her core friend group, Sarah J. Maas sort of snuck in a bunch of Easter eggs about the next books that are coming in the series, and sort of spent less time concluding and more time setting up, which I guess, But since this is still technically the conclusion of the original trilogy, despite the series itself going on a little bit longer, I feel like maybe more time should have been spent with the characters we were here for, rather than just the additional extra characters that we didn't really want to, at least in my case, spend as much time with, because they weren't the people whose stories we were following from the start. If you had to get rid of all of your books, which book could you just not give up? It's talking about a specific single book, and to that, all I have to say is, don't ask questions you're not prepared to know the answer to. Don't ask questions I'm not prepared to give the answer to. This, seeing the question, I started sweating, I started panicking. Don't, please, for the love of God, never make me give up my books. I love them so tremendously. It would be like ripping out a piece of my heart. So I can't give you an answer. Question number 8 is, what is the best book that you've ever been given? And I'm not talking, at least in my answer, about best as in the quality of the book. I'm talking about best as in the overall effect the book had on my life. And for this, I have to say the first copy of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone that my parents ever got me. I've talked before on this channel about how J.K. Rowling and reading the world of Harry Potter is sort of what convinced me that I wanted to become a writer, and Harry Potter itself just opened the doors to middle grade and young adult fantasy, which is the genre that I want to write in. Question number 9 is, what is a book someone gave you that you wish you could give right back? Again, I don't have an answer. If somebody gives me a book, it's usually because they know my reading tastes, so they don't give me books that I don't like very much. And the final question is to name a book in which a character is given something meaningful. I'm not sure if my interpretation of the question is valid, but I'm going to say it anyway. And I'm going to say Aiden. Ooh, wait. Spoilers for book 1 of the Illuminae Files. So when I put the book down, I've stopped talking spoilers. I feel like Aiden being given the ability to think for itself and to sort of emote was absolutely meaningful, not only because it started this, the whole story and the journey of the Illuminae Files off on the foot that it did, but because just the idea of something considered not alive all of a sudden having all these hallmarks of what it means to be alive and what it means to be human is just, it's fascinating to me. And I think Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff wrote it extremely well, and they made him very sympathetic despite being a sociopath killer. For these next couple tags, I'm going to be here in my kitchen baking some brownies, just because I feel like baking things is such a quintessential holiday season thing to do. Today I'm going to be making some brownies, and the first tag that I'm going to show you while I'm doing this is the Joy of Christmas book tag. I'll leave the creator of the tag linked in the description box below, alongside Noria from the channel of Noria Reads, who was kind enough to tag me to do this tag in the first place. So question number 1 is anticipation. So the Christmas hype is super real. What book release are you most excited for? And I'm going to take this to mean what book release of early 2020 am I most excited for, because there's not really much still that's going to come out in 2019 that I'm hyped for. And the answer for that obviously has to be The Sword in the Stars, sequel to Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. I read Once and Future just a little bit earlier this month, and I absolutely adored it. The basic premise of it is a retelling of Arthurian legend, but following a female King Arthur, the 42nd incarnation thereof, in a perhaps not so distant future where corporations have taken over the world. She has to rise to the occasion and defeat that great evil. By her side, she has Merlin, who in the original Arthurian legend is this old, wizened man who's been aging backwards. So now he is a little teen trying to help her become basically the chosen one that's destined to save the world. And have I mentioned that it's gay? Because it's queer as hell. Everyone in this book is a little bit queer, and I just think it's so wonderful. I truly cannot wait to continue this story, and I know that I will definitely be first in line to purchase the book when it comes out in April of 2020. Question number 2 is Christmas songs and carols. What's a book that you can't stop singing the praises of? And I mean, even if you haven't watched my channel before now, watching this video, you'll know that I have to say Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. It's got every single one of my favorite things. It's fantasy dialed up to an 11. It's got no girl hate. In fact, it has hecka girl friendship. It has political intrigue. It's got the chosen one trope, but done in a very unique and interesting way. And it's got the best slow burn romances possibly ever. And in addition, it has a pretty serious environmental message, which is something that I only realized in my most recent reread of the series, and I can't wait to reread it again in 2020 in anticipation for book 4. I'm just so hyped about this book. Question number 3 is Gingerbread Houses. What is a book that has excellent world building? For this question, I'm going to mention another book that I mentioned previously in this video, just because, I truly cannot sing its praise enough with regard to how well crafted it is, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. With a book this thick, you know there's some beautiful world building happening in it. As a fantasy aficionado, I am a big fan of quality world building, and Samantha Shannon never disappoints, both in her Bone Season series and in this absolute brick. Question number 4 is A Christmas Carol. Pick your favorite classic or a classic that you want to read. For this, I'm going to choose a children's classic and one of my 2 favorite books of all time, always and forever, and that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I just think it's a beautiful, whimsical story that's surprisingly dark, and you can get something new from it every single time you read it. And those are just things I really enjoy in my books, but especially in my classics, because I feel like if something's going to be called a classic, then it needs to own that title, you know? It needs to be worthy of the title of classic. And if something is not compulsively rereadable, or if something's not, bringing you something new to the table every single time you try it out, is it really worth being called a classic? I'm not sure that I think so. Question number 5 is particularly fitting, I think, for this part of the video, and it is Christmas Sweets. What is a book that you particularly like to receive during this Christmas season? And like I've said for some previous questions in previous tags, anything that makes somebody think of me, like if a friend or a family member looks at something and is like, this Vendi, that's a book she'd like, that's a thing that I'd like. Question number 7 is Candle in the Window. What is a book that gives you a warm and fuzzy feeling inside? Emotional palette, if you will, like the emotional profile of the books I read doesn't really tend to skew very warm and fuzzy. I prefer to experience my emotional catharsis in different ways with the books that I read. Sometimes certain aspects of books will leave me feeling warm and fuzzy, romances, family dynamics, fuzzy, but a book by itself whose overall emotional palette just feels warm and fuzzy is a pretty rare thing for me. Recently I read Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I think that's kind of as close as I really get for that sort of thing. Question number 7 is Christmas Trees and Decorations. So as to pick a book with one of your favorite covers, I guess you could do multiple books if that strikes your fancy. What I'm going to do for this one is pick a cover that I really like, but that feels kind of Christmas-timey for me. So what I'm choosing is The Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossner. I'm choosing this because it just feels like so very cozy, like the bright yellow gold of the filigree around the side and the font and stuff contrasts really well against the black of the background. And I think that it just feels like looking at a super warm and cozy house through a window on a cold winter's day. It just feels very warm and inviting. The concept of sisters and woods also feels very wintry and Christmassy, and winter is literally in the title, so I feel like that's particularly beautiful. See, there's like a little smoking cabin up in the corner there, and here we have some dreidels, and I don't know, it just feels very on theme for the holiday season. And last but certainly not least, we have the end of the year book tag. I have not been tagged to do this, but I'm going to do it because it's the end of the year and I might as well. So prompt number 1 is, are there any books that you still need to finish before the end of the year? Oh boy, are there. There's Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I'm about 60% of the way through. There is Dark Dawn by Jay Kristoff, which I'm also 30% of the way through. There's Assassin's Apprentice, which I'm about 1/3 of the way through, and I'm buddy reading this one, so the fact that I haven't finished it yet is just bonkers. But the answer to your question is absolutely yes. Question number 2 is, are there any autumnal books that you have that are going to transition you through to the winter? And I guess since it's already winter, I'm going to just say a wintry book that's going to transition me into these cold months. And for that, I'm going to say Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossner. This has been on my TBR for a really long time, and I would like to get to it before the end of the year, particularly because it's it promises to be such a wintry read, and it's going to be perfect for just sitting down on a cozy snow day and finishing in, let's be honest, 2 sittings. Question number 3 is, are there any new releases you're still waiting for? And for this, I kind of have 2. I have Called on the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater and The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I'm working my way through this one at present. I know that they're technically out now, but I still haven't got to them, so I'm still in theory, waiting on reading them. The next question is to pick 3 books that I want to read before the end of the year. So Call Down the Hawk, Sisters of the Winter Wood, and the third one is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I've also had this book for about 6 months now, and I've been wanting to read this whole time. I know that it doesn't probably seem like a wintry time book, but I've been finding that sort of contemporary stories have pulled me out of my reading slump, and I don't want to break that streak, so I'm going to be breaking up my heavy fantasy reading with this book at some point. The next question is, do you think there's a book that could still shock you and become your favorite of the year? I don't think anything could shock me or surprise me. I generally know the things I'm going to read I'm going to like to a certain degree, and I don't think anything could dethrone Blood Witch as my favorite read of the year, but, a girl can dream. And the final question is, have you already made your reading plans for the next year, so for 2020? I have, in the vague sense that I want to read in 2020. My goal, as always, is going to be to get my physical/owned TBR down to 0 books, and I'm thinking of instituting a buying ban for myself for at least the first 6 months of the year to try to get that number down. I also have a couple buddy reads planned with my friends Katie and Noria, who are already linked down below, but I might do it again. But besides that, not really. I'm trying to leave it open because I found that lacking a TBR has been helping me sort of get to it and make good decisions for my reading life. And there you have it, guys. That was the last Tagapalooza of 2019. I'll be happy to continue this into next year, but I'm already sad to sort of see 2019 go. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up, and if you like me, maybe consider subscribing to my channel. I post new videos every weekend, more or less, and I would love to have you become part of my little booktube family. If you're interested in doing any one of these tags, please consider yourself tagged by me. You can do one, you can do them all, you can do a Tagapalooza type thing of your own, but if one moves you, please go ahead and do it. You have officially been tagged. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you with a new video very, very soon. Goodbye.